Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all the incredibly dedicated teachers joining us today. You are absolutely the true gurus shaping our nation's future. But before we get into today's explainer, let's just be real for a second, okay? I know exactly what your morning looked like. Managing a super noisy classroom, checking endless stacks of notebooks, and just trying to keep, 40 or 50 energetic middle schoolers in their seats? It's literally no small task. Well, today we're unpacking a fascinating case study that beautifully bridges our rich, ancient educational traditions with the everyday reality of your modern English classrooms. We all want our students to not just clear their written exams, but to actually thrive, to speak up with real confidence, right? So let's explore how looking back to our roots might just be the exact key to unlocking that future.
So, let's dive right into a frustration I know you feel every single day. Think about your own classroom for a minute. Why is it that our absolute grammar experts suddenly hesitate to speak? I mean, our middle schoolers, they are brilliantly smart. They've perfectly mugged up the rules, they know their tenses, the verbs, the whole shebang. But then, you ask a simple open-ended question in English, and what happens? Pin drops silence. Suddenly, 40 pairs of eyes are staring very intently at the floorboards, finding their wooden desks incredibly fascinating. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Seeing these brilliant kids completely freeze up when it's time to actually just converse?
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start by understanding the silent English classroom, then introduce the modern Gurukula solution. After that, we'll look at daily interactive learning activities, track a real 3-month transformation, and finally, talk about what it means to become a true guru.
So let's get right into it and understand the silent English classroom and really unpack this deep hesitation to speak.
We are facing a massive roadblock here. On one side, you've got students with this unbelievable grasp of grammar. They clear written exams with flying colors, right? They know the textbook inside out. But on the exact flip side, there's this totally paralyzing fear of making spoken mistakes. It's just a bizarre contrast when you think about it.
Now, why does this happen? Well, middle schoolers are at that tender age where peer approval is quite literally everything. This case study observed that they are terrified of saying the wrong word, getting laughed at by their friends, or, honestly, disappointing you, their teacher. This paralyzing fear, that little inner voice screaming, "What if my friends laugh at me?" it completely overrides all that brilliant grammar locked up in their heads.
And because of this intense fear, they naturally retreat to what feels safe. Memorization literally becomes a shield for them. In so many of our rural classrooms, deeply ingrained rote learning acts as a reliable safety net. See, when students rely entirely on reciting perfectly memorized paragraphs, they completely avoid the vulnerability of forming their own spontaneous thoughts. They never risk a mistake. But language is meant to be spoken, right? Not just recited like a parrot?
Which brings us to our next point, blending our ancient systems with modern pedagogy to create what we call the modern Gurukula solution. Now, don't worry, the modern Gurukula system is not some expensive software program or high-tech language lab. We know those are just totally out of reach for a lot of our schools. Instead, it's about learning language through daily interaction, storytelling, and collaboration. It's totally rooted in the ancient Indian traditions of shared experience. Think about it, in the ancient Gurukulas, learning didn't happen in an isolated box. We are simply taking that exact ancient spirit and bringing the language entirely off the flat page and right into the real, vibrant world.
By shifting the focus away from those solitary, isolated textbook exercises, look at what we actually achieve. We are taking away the heavy pressure of always having to construct the perfectly correct sentence. And the moment you remove that intense pressure, you open up an absolute game changer of a world for these kids. A world of meaningful, shared conversation.
So how do we actually do this? Let's look at some daily interactive learning activities. These are practical, strictly zero-budget steps you can use in your classroom tomorrow morning.
Step 1 doesn't need to be formal at all. Just a casual, friendly morning greeting like, "Hey, what did you eat for breakfast today?" It sounds so basic, right? But this simple question completely sets the right interactive tone for the entire day. It shows the students that English is actually for connecting with one another, right from the very first bell.
Here are the core activities you can easily implement. We've got those casual morning greetings, and then local story circles, drawing on our incredibly rich Indian tradition of storytelling. Then market haggling skits, putting them in groups to pretend to bargain over vegetable prices at the local sabzi mandi. And finally, debates and group discussions. These daily activities naturally force students out of their textbooks because, well, they actually have to talk to each other to get the task done.
And you know what the best part of all this is? As they roleplay that vegetable market haggling, they aren't just practicing English vocabulary. They are building essential life skills. They develop deep empathy for classmates who might be struggling to find that one right word, and they build genuine teamwork. English simply becomes the tool to build a much stronger, more supportive classroom community. Now let's look at the real proof that this Gurukula spirit actually works by tracking a typical 3-month transformation.
Let's watch how this transformation unfolds. On day 1, we have that painfully familiar silent classroom, completely dependent on memorization and, frankly, totally terrified. By month 1, the teacher introduces those daily interactive activities we just talked about, the story circles, the casual greetings, and get this, by month 3, the entire vibe of the room is completely shifted to voluntary speaking, confidence absolutely skyrockets, and just through sheer practice, their pronunciation naturally improves. It's literally like night and day.
But honestly, the most magical, most emotional change is exactly this: the quiet boy in the back row voluntarily raising his hand. The student who hasn't spoken a single word of English all year actually wanting to share his thoughts. They don't have to be called on anymore. When you take the fear away, curiosity and a genuine desire to connect naturally take its place. This brings us to our final and most important point: becoming a true guru and making that crucial pedagogical shift yourself.
Teachers, I want to speak to you directly here. We must consciously put down the red pen. Actually, scratch that. We have to completely change our mindset. We have to make the shift from being a strict evaluator who immediately corrects every single past tense mistake on the spot to becoming a gentle mentor, a true guru. It requires immense patience to not jump in the second a grammatical error happens. But this shift is absolutely essential.
The mindset we need is simple. Let the communication flow. If a student is finally brave enough to speak up during a role play and they completely mess up the tenses, just let them communicate. If you put down that red pen and remove the paralyzing fear of failure, the grammar will naturally align over time because those kids already have that strong foundation built up. They know the rules.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this: language learning isn't just some rigid set of rules to memorize for a Friday exam. It only truly comes alive when students engage in real, vibrant, human communication with their peers in a supportive, deeply connected learning environment.
As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to remind you that you hold the power to break the silence in your classroom. You don't need fancy equipment, just a little shift in mindset tomorrow morning. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. How will you bring the Gurukula spirit into your modern classroom tomorrow? Will you choose to be just an evaluator, or will you choose to be a true guru? Thank you so much for your incredible dedication to shaping India's future. Namaste.